I looked at some of the flies that I fish with and I catch fish with, right? And I don't know, I used to blame it on my age. As I got older, I wanted things more simple and straightforward. But the truth of the matter is, some of the longest living fly patterns are also some of the most simple and basic. Here's what happens. If you have this really stupid looking thing like a grub, no one's going to pay you $3 for it in a fly shop. Now, if you put eyes and ears and gonads on it, right, they'll snap that up at $5, no problem. So you got to separate what is for the angler and what is actually for the fish. So you strip out all of the stuff that is unessential. And what you're left with is going to work fine. It's going to meet a couple of really important criteria. One, it's fast to tie. Because you got to tie a bunch of them. Because you're going to put them in the water and you're going to put them at risk. That is, you're going to put them down in the rocks and in the trees. Because that's where the fish are. If you spend 2 hours on that thing, you'll sort of be a yard and a half from the line of trees, right? And you should be risking the flies, right? Two, they have to be readily available, inexpensive type materials. Right? There's no point in putting rare earth type things on there and just watching that thing go floating down the damn river, right? And they have to be effective. If they're not catching something, then there's something really wrong with it. So I'm going to take you back to, I think just after the Second World War, there was this guy in England named Frank Sawyer. You may remember the name from every one of those pheasant tail nymphs that you paid $3 for in the store. It's called the Sawyer's pheasant tail. And guess what? It doesn't look anything like the way the man tied them. You see the way the man tied them, you just laugh because it's so basic, so simple, and it's made of pheasant tail fibers and fine copper wire, which he got from unraveling transformers and things like that, right? This is just after the war. But he also made another fly. That fly, you gotta love this one, right? It was called the killer bug. And you go, killer bug, oh baby. That's gotta work. It does too, it works really well. So the first fly we're going to do tonight is a killer bug. But we're not going to use the original materials. There's this crazy yarn from the 50s. And it's only found now in the baskets of somebody's great-grandmother's sewing kit. And if the last guy who found 2 of them, he sold them for 100 pounds each. I have a friend who actually has some of that stuff. He's insane. So we're going to use something far more readily available and a whole lot cheaper. Burlap. Hemp. We don't want to roll this up and smoke it afterwards. No. So, what do we need to tie a killer bug? We need exactly 2 materials. We need, and this was some kind of fancy, I just cut it to pieces and pull it all apart. And you just want to pull the fibers off like this, you see? Just whatever. And the best stuff, if you can get it, is the stuff that you used to tie up your bushes for at least one winter season. And what happens is I don't know how well you can see that here in the camera, but see how fuzzy that is? You see the fuzziness? That's the whole key to its success, is that fuzziness. That gives it life in the water. It gives it motion when you're not moving it. And those are part of the key things. The only other thing you need is some fine copper wire. I happen to put mine in a bobbin, but you can just do it by hand. And all the other thing we need is a hook of some sort. And literally, back in that day, they didn't have the bewildering array of hooks that they have today. They had like 4. Okay, so I've just got a size 10 hook here, I guess, something like that. You pick yourself out a nice, fuzzy looking length of hemp. By the way, I found balls of hemp cord in Walmart. It comes in different colors. brown and black. So, you know, for a few bucks you can buy 5 lifetime supply of this stuff. To start it, couldn't be any simpler. You just basically start your thread or your wire just behind the hook eye, and you're going to wrap down in fairly close turns to about the halfway point. Okay? You can helicopter this part off if you want. Come on, behave. There you go. All right, and you take your piece of hemp here, and you tie it on this way. Just wrap it down, wrap it on. And now what you do is you can spend a couple of seconds here building up a little bit of a taper to the body. A couple of turns of copper wire in there. Just so that the body just seems to have a little bit of form. Take it to the back. And this is an unusual fly in that you tie it off at the rear instead of at the front. Almost all other flies you tie off at the rear. And okay, this takes a great deal of skill and talent, okay? I mean, I don't know how I managed to do this. Really, I do. So you wrap it on. Go forward. Fuzzier and uglier it is, the better. When you get to the front, what do you suppose you do? Yes, you guessed it, you go back again. Now when you get back to the back here, you take a couple of turns, and now you take your wire and you trap the end down with the wire like that. And you want to make 3 or 4 or 5 maybe, turns of the copper, because in the end what you're going to have is you're going to have a little bit of a copper tag back there. Gives you a little bright spot. I like to have a little bright spot on my flies. Now, you can just half hitch it, or you can spend a little bit of a and that's all there is to it. There you go. That's it. Now, another one of my highly technical tools. That's the loop from Velcro. And that's an old popsicle stick. Might even have had a popsicle on it. And you can just give that a little bit of a rough up. And that is all she wrote. It's that simple. Okay? Anybody in here think they can't do that? Okay. The secret, though, as with so many of these things, is how you fish it. He fished it on a long leader, upstream. And I would let it come towards him. And he would watch for the little white wink. Do you know what that is? The fish will turn in the current, come down and open its mouth. And if you know the color of the inside of a trout's mouth, it's white. And when the wink closes, you lift the rod. I wrote whole poems to the little white wink. Okay, that is as simple as it gets as flies go. This is a very effective pattern. You can fish it with a couple of split shot under an indicator upstream. Now, what does it imitate? Crane fly larva is one of the suppositions about what it looks like. Crane fly larvae live in the sandy, gravelly areas along the fringes and whatnot. And after a good spate or something like that, they'll often get washed out and into the current, and that thing coming down, the fish will remember what it is and eat it. Why doesn't it need arms and legs and eyes and gonads and all the rest of it? Because it's a larva. It doesn't have much of any of that. It's also moving in the current. The fish doesn't have time to get out there and go, oh yeah, okay, it's got all the right number of legs, and look at that, I think it's right. It doesn't work that way. It's going to work by instinct. So just get it in front of it, and you've got a pretty good chance of catching something. Now, you know what? There's really no color on that. Let's darken the back up a little bit here. You can take yourself one of these nice markers here, see? And you can just darken the back with it here like this. And all of a sudden it's worth buying, right? This one does have a little more involved to it. First of all, help get it down. I'm going to tie it on a little scud up here. I often tie these really very small, but I'm going to tie this one on a 12, just so that you can see it a little easier. I do put a little gold bead on it.
Well, thanks for letting me struggle there.
Didn't quite catch the description, actually.
Yeah. Okay, so there we got a little gold bead. You can use just about any color of thread, doesn't really matter. I like to use, there we are, the finest pearlescent mylar tinsel you can get. That's what we'll rivet with. So we'll take a little bit of, here's your dubbing with a little bit of the fibers and whatnot in it to make it what? Make it spiky and whatnot? Yeah, there's a reason for it. Takes a moment to distribute this along the thread with a little bit of fly tyer's friend. You're always pulling hair out of your mouth and you wonder why. Actually, if you're ever concerned about material that you're getting in, someone says, "Oh, I just shot a turkey, here's some feathers." You don't want to say no, because the guy might actually come back with something really good next time, right? So put them in a Ziploc bag or any kind of a plastic bag and put them in the bottom of your freezer for about 3 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks. Anything that might have grown out of those feathers will die in that, okay? There's a reason why the Scandinavian version of hell is frozen place. In fact, that's where we get the word from.
Sheldon,
Squire.
I was told that the rabbit fox that I did that with wasn't going to sit there and get rid of the root rabies, so.
Did you ever give me any of that stuff? Tim and I have known each other for too long. Okay, you want to just sort of try and build up a bit of a taper. And you also want to do something, and that is you want to jam this up against the bead as much as you can, because that'll help keep it in place. Okay? Straightforward and simple, yes, everybody can do this. Now what I like to do is I like to take 2 or 3 wraps down the hook. Come on. Nope, you didn't. All right, Sheldon. You're going to do it the hard way. When all else fails, punt.
Okay.
This is what happens, by the way, when you catch it on the hook point. 35 years of fly tying, you figure I wouldn't do that, wouldn't you, right? There we go. Now we have one more material. Like I said, this is far more involved. This is how you deal with your partridge. You take them out of the package and you prepare every one of them like that, see? In advance. Do not put them in an envelope to them in a jar, keeps them nice and fluffy and ready to go. You can tell that grouse is much easier to come by than gray partridge. Preparing it is very simple. What you want to do is just isolate, I'll just show it to you in a second. Ah, I know what that is. So that's how you prepare it, you see? You see that?
Over bit there.
There?
Ah,
Okay? And what you do is you tie that in right at the narrow point, just behind the bead. Trim that. If you're smart, you put these on. The dang things will work this time. Just want one. I just want a pair of things that will work. Just one turn, basically. That's it. One turn. Now this little pattern doesn't really have a name. A guy who would tie some of these for, he fishes the chalk streams in England a lot, and he says this is one of the most productive flies he uses. I mean, there it is, it's that simple. Right, again, a good pattern to use with a cast of flies. Put this on as a dropper, one of the middle dropper. If you're using it in the what do they call it? The Polish nymphing technique. The heaviest fly is in the middle, and you have a lighter fly at top and bottom. You put this one, because it's got a bead on it, you put it at the top, and then you put it almost an unweighted one at the bottom. Okay, and then you have like a stonefly type nymph holding it down. So you got what I like to call living weight. Instead of putting split shot on, you put a second fly on that's heavy. Okay? And that little pattern has caught me a lot of trout, but you know what else it's caught a lot of? Is a lot of panfish. A lot of sunfish will eat this, and crappie will just clean it up. And I've caught some pretty good smallmouth bass on it too, while I'm fishing for sunfish and stuff. So, great little fly, very simple to tie, and effective. Called the Schminnow, and it was originally designed for saltwater, but I use it in ponds and rivers, and it works just beautifully. And it's another one of those those simple 3 materials. You're done. Okay, so. Okay, so the secret to this fly is this stuff. It too comes in various crystal chenille or things, something like that, right? And the guys who invented this, a fellow down in Florida, and basically when he goes fishing, saltwater fishing down there, this is the only fly he fishes with. Because you don't need anything else. It just works. And when I saw the pattern, I went, why aren't we using this? This has to work, right? So, start our thread. And I don't know if I think you should probably use a white thread. Am I slightly off there? Okay. Oh, I was a little off. Anyway. You've seen these, I know you have. Mono eyes, right? Okay. These are the large ones. And you sort of put them, not exactly too close to the front, but in the front part. Oh, maybe that's what it is.
Would bead chain work for this, or you need?
You could use bead chain. I've used small weighted eyes, you know, anything like that. It's
Where do those be?
one of those. This, of course, everyone should have a little bit of this. Just make sure you don't get yourself with it. Yeah, naturally it just pours out. All right, that's not going to be good. Oh, God. That's going to get me, I just know it. Yeah, the glue is trying to get me. All right, there we go. Okay, and then you get a, well, normally, I'd usually put this in a spool or thing of some sort. Anyway, then you just tear a little bit there at the end, tie it in. Okay, you guys have been watching this, right? Because this is really complex and complicated. You know that, complex and complicated, right? Bring that up to the front here, and then, okay, as you should just try and stroke it back a little bit here, so. And sugar, found the super glue. Son of a seacoal, how did you get there? So around the eyes. Here in the front. And I'm sorry I rushed it because the super glue was out to get me.
No, it's something else.
Trim. Tie it off. And that is it, folks. Okay? Fish it on a sinking line or sink tip, anything like that. That is it. Done. How much more simple can that be? The first time I went and used these, even I was embarrassed. That's it. That's the whole thing. It's called the Schminnow. You can buy, you know, this stuff is stupid price, like $6, $7 or something for a hank of this, but you're going to tie an awful lot of flies out of it. Some of us have learned how to make our own mono eyes. Buying them is ridiculous, but you could do it if you had to. And, or you could use lead eyes. You could use those little eyes like this. See, eyes like that. Anything like that. That adds a little weight, which makes it a little awkward to cast, but. And the first time I put this on at a certain club that Brian might be familiar with, I went through 5 of them, I think, in an afternoon, just torn to rat shit. And I've used them in streams.
trees?
Yeah, right. And I've used them, they actually work in rivers as well, and they're just a nondescript minnow pattern. That's all it
Cross
is.
between a shrimp in the middle.
Yeah,
Schminnow.
that's right.